The night sky has always been a canvas for human imagination. When we look upward, away from the noise of cities and into the deep blackness dotted with countless stars, it is as if we are staring into an ancient library written in light. Each star twinkles like a hidden word, each constellation like a secret phrase. Civilizations before us believed that these stars were more than distant suns. They were messages, signs, or even gods themselves. And in the silence of the cosmos, one haunting question has never faded. Is there an unseen architecture shaping everything we know? The earliest humans stood in awe beneath the same constellations we see today. Without telescopes, without equations, they noticed patterns. Orion rising in winter, the moon swelling and shrinking with perfect rhythm, planets moving against the backdrop of fixed stars like actors playing scripted roles. These observations planted the seed of a thought that continues to haunt us. Perhaps the universe is not chaos at all, but order disguised as mystery. It whispers to us in patterns, cycles, and symmetries, daring us to listen. Imagine standing at the edge of a desert thousands of years ago. The sky above is so clear that the Milky Way cuts across it like a river of light. You hear nothing but the faint wind brushing against the sand. Yet in that silence you sense something vast and intentional. The stars feel positioned, as if someone placed them carefully, one by one, to form a cosmic map. The ancients did not see randomness. They saw architecture. And in those celestial arrangements, they believed they glimpsed the intentions of divine architects, unseen yet ever-present. This prologue sets the stage for a journey between two extremes. The comfort of knowing there might be structure, and the dread of realizing there might be none. On one side lies the hope that order reigns, that the universe is guided by eternal laws or hidden intelligences. On the other side lies the terrifying possibility of emptiness, that everything is chance, and meaning is an illusion we create to ease our fear. The tension between these two perspectives has defined centuries of human thought. The universe often feels like a paradox, silent yet speaking, empty yet overflowing with mystery. A star dying in a supernova millions of light years away can be brighter than an entire galaxy. Yet from Earth it might appear as a single flicker in the night sky. Such contradictions evoke a strange mix of emotions: wonder at the scale, fear at the violence, awe at the beauty, and humility at our smallness. And in those emotions lies the essence of the cosmic mystery. We, fragile creatures bound to a small blue planet, are attempting to decode something immeasurable. Our ancestors built monuments aligned with stars, mapped constellations into stories, and traced celestial cycles to plant crops and guide ships. Today, we launch telescopes into orbit, simulate universes on computers, and dive into equations that describe dimensions we cannot see. But the question remains the same. Are we discovering the design of a grand architecture, or are we projecting meaning onto a void? There's also a haunting beauty in not knowing. Mystery itself becomes part of the architecture, like shadows that make light more profound. When we gaze at the night sky, we're not just seeing distant suns. We're seeing the echoes of ancient light, some of it traveling for billions of years to reach us. Each photon is a messenger from a past we cannot touch, a fragment of a story still being written. The cosmos becomes a book without an ending, its final chapter always just beyond our reach. This opening is not meant to provide answers, but to awaken a sense of urgency and wonder. The audience is drawn into a question that is older than language, yet as fresh as the breath we take while staring into the night. What force arranges galaxies into spirals, planets into stable orbits, and life into forms of staggering complexity? What hidden hands, whether natural or divine, carve order into the abyss? The prologue closes with a whisper, an invitation into mystery. The stars above are silent, yet their silence feels intentional, like a pause before revelation. The story of a universe, and the story of humanity's search to understand it, is about to unfold. But for now, we remain at the edge of knowing, suspended between chaos and order, listening to the quiet voice of the cosmos asking us to look deeper. At first glance, the universe appears to be a storm of randomness. Galaxies crash into each other in violent collisions, stars explode in cataclysmic bursts, and subatomic particles flicker in and out of existence without warning. Yet beneath this apparent disorder lies a tapestry of patterns, structures so precise, so elegantly repeated, that one begins to wonder whether chaos is only an illusion, a veil hiding a deeper order. The cosmos, when looked at closely, whispers a secret. Patterns are everywhere, guiding everything, from the swirl of galaxies to the veins of a leaf. Consider the fractal beauty of a coastline. From a distance, it seems rough, jagged, without structure. But zoom in, and you discover repeating shapes, smaller curves echoing larger ones, each scale reflecting the whole. This fractal principle is found across nature. The branching of trees mirrors the branching of rivers, which in turn mirrors the branching of lightning across the sky. Clouds form in self-similar patterns. Snowflakes crystallize in repeating symmetries, and even our lungs mirror this fractal rhythm, branching again and again into smaller passageways until air reaches the very cells of life. Is this randomness, or is it the signature of a hidden architect at work? The same question emerges in the dance of the planets. To the untrained eye, their wandering across the night sky once seemed chaotic. Ancient people called them wanderers because they defied the rigid predictability of fixed stars. Yet careful observation revealed cycles, loops, and retrogrades that repeated with uncanny precision. Johannes Kepler, after years of struggle, uncovered the laws of planetary motion, elliptical orbits, ratios of periods, hidden symmetries. Out of what once looked like erratic wandering emerged elegant mathematical rules, a cosmic choreography too perfect to be dismissed as mere accident. Patterns do not only emerge in grand, celestial arenas. They appear in the most intimate corners of existence. The spiral of a seashell is the same spiral that shapes hurricanes, the same spiral traced in galaxies millions of light years away. Known as the Fibonacci sequence, this pattern reappears across scales and dimensions, suggesting that nature has a preferred rhythm, a quiet law embedded in the fabric of creation. It is as if the universe is a composer, returning again and again to a favorite melody. Even the apparent chaos of weather hides order. Clouds swirl and storms rage, but beneath the turbulence lies the mathematics of fluid dynamics, sensitive yet patterned. Edward Lorenz, studying weather systems, discovered the butterfly effect, a concept that both reveals the unpredictability of certain systems and the hidden structures shaping them. Chaos theory emerged, showing that systems which look random can actually be deterministic, bound by invisible rules. A butterfly's wings may not truly change the path of a hurricane, but the metaphor remains. Small beginnings can spiral into vast consequences, all within the boundaries of hidden order. The human mind instinctively searches for these patterns. Our survival once depended on it, recognizing the cycles of seasons, the migrations of animals, the phases of the moon. Yet this instinct often collides with a deep truth. Sometimes patterns are real, and sometimes they are illusions born from our need for meaning. Do constellations truly exist in the stars, or are they simply our imagination connecting random points of light? The duality between genuine cosmic structure and projected human pattern is a constant tension in our story. But the deeper science delves, the more undeniable universal patterns become. Quantum mechanics, though strange and unpredictable at the particle level, reveals astonishing regularities in statistical outcomes. Subatomic particles obey probability distributions with perfect mathematical consistency. On the largest scales, galaxies cluster into filaments and voids that resemble neural networks, echoing the very structure of the brain that seeks to comprehend them. The micro and the macro mirror each other, as if the same design principle has been applied across scales without end. This recurring theme, that chaos masks order, carries profound implications. if patterns exist everywhere, then perhaps the universe is not a meaningless sprawl, but a system guided by rules we have only begun to uncover. And if these rules are consistent, then perhaps they are evidence of a deeper architecture, one so vast and subtle that it cannot be fully seen, only inferred from the echoes it leaves behind. Yet with this revelation comes unease. For every pattern uncovered, a deeper mystery arises. Why should mathematics, an abstract language invented by humans, so perfectly describe the rhythms of planets, the growth of flowers, the motion of waves? Is mathematics merely a tool of description, or is it the very language in which the cosmos itself is written? And if it is written, then who, or what, is the author? Patterns in chaos serve as the first clue in a larger riddle, drawing us into the paradox of the universe. On one hand, we are reassured by the discovery of structure, evidence that meaning is not an illusion. On the other hand, each discovery opens a deeper abyss, suggesting that the order we find may point to forces, laws, or architects beyond our comprehension. The mystery does not end with patterns. It only begins there. Long before telescopes, long before equations and laboratories, humans looked to the heavens and saw not emptiness but intention. The ancients believed the universe was not only alive but ordered, designed by unseen architects whose wisdom stretched beyond the boundaries of human comprehension. Their monuments, myths, and rituals reflected this conviction, embedding cosmic principles into the very fabric of daily life. To them, the sky was not a backdrop. It was a blueprint, a map drawn by divine hands. Consider the builders of Stonehenge in England. At first glance, it is simply a circle of weathered stones. But align your perspective with the summer solstice sunrise, and the monument transforms into a celestial calendar. The massive stones frame the rising sun with precision, suggesting that these ancient architects possessed an understanding of astronomical cycles far beyond what their primitive tools should have allowed. Was this knowledge painstakingly observed over centuries, or was it the remnant of an even older wisdom passed down and partly forgotten? The question lingers, adding mystery to the silent stones. Travel to Egypt, and the pyramids rise like mountains carved by human hands. The Great Pyramid of Giza, in particular, is aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal points of Earth, north, south, east, and west, with an accuracy that rivals modern engineering. Its internal shafts point towards significant stars, including Orion's belt and Sirius, linking the tomb of a pharaoh to the eternal heavens. To the Egyptians, architecture was never just functional. It was sacred geometry, an attempt to mirror the cosmos on Earth. When they built in stone, they were not merely building tombs, they were imitating the architecture of the gods. In Mesoamerica, the Maya constructed pyramids that acted as giant celestial clocks. At Chichen Itza, during the equinoxes, shadows fall on the pyramid of Kukulkan to create the illusion of a serpent slithering down its staircase. The entire city was designed with astronomical precision, its temples aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and planetary cycles. This was not coincidence, but the result of a worldview in which cosmic order and human life were inseparably intertwined. The Maya believed that to live in harmony with the universe, one must first understand its rhythms, and then build structures that embodied them. The same pattern repeats across the globe. The ancient Chinese aligned their cities and palaces with celestial orientations, guided by principles of feng shui that sought to harmonize earthly and cosmic flows of energy. The Indus Valley civilization aligned cities along precise grids, suggesting not just practicality, but a deeper reverence for order itself. Even indigenous cultures across the Americas, Africa, and Oceania constructed stone circles, burial mounds, and ritual sites carefully oriented to the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. These cultures, separated by oceans and millennia, all seem to reach the same conclusion. Architecture was not merely human, it was cosmic. Myths also carried the weight of this belief. The Greeks spoke of the Titan Atlas holding up the heavens, symbolizing the burden of maintaining cosmic order. The Babylonians etched celestial patterns into clay tablets, mapping the movements of planets and stars with astonishing detail. The Vedic texts of India describe the universe as an infinite cycle, ordered by principles of dharma, a kind of cosmic law that governed both stars and souls. These stories were not idle fantasies. They were frameworks of understanding, blending myth with observation to create a vision of the universe as both mysterious and structured. What is striking is not only the precision of ancient knowledge, but the persistence of its symbols. Spirals, circles, triangles, and squares appear in their art, temples, and rituals, shapes that echo across time and culture. The spiral, for example, represents both the growth of life and the unfolding of galaxies. The circle symbolizes eternity, the cycle of seasons, the endless loop of birth and death. To the ancients, geometry was sacred because it was universal. It was the language of the cosmos made visible. This raises an unsettling question. How did these civilizations, with limited tools and no modern science, achieve such astonishing precision? Were they simply careful observers, dedicating centuries to watching the skies and passing down knowledge through oral traditions? Or did they inherit fragments of a deeper understanding, an echo of a knowledge now lost to time? The idea of lost architects begins to emerge, not necessarily as physical beings, but as principles, teachers, or forgotten cultures whose wisdom may have seeded the civilizations we know. The sense of awe these structures still evoke today is undeniable. Standing before the pyramids, or beneath the stones of Stonehenge, or atop a Mayan temple, one cannot help but feel the pull of eternity. The alignment of stone and star becomes a silent testimony to humanity's ancient bond with the cosmos. These monuments are not just remnants of history. They are messages carved into Earth itself, whispers from civilizations reminding us that they, too, sought to understand the architecture of the universe. And yet, for all their precision, these ancient achievements are cloaked in silence. The builders left few explanations, leaving us to speculate across centuries. Were they guided by gods, by intuition, or by knowledge long forgotten? Did they see patterns that we now overlook, blinded by our reliance on machines? The ruins stand as riddles, half decoded, waiting for us to listen more carefully. In the shadows of these stones, in the stories etched into myth, we find the first tangible evidence of humanity's pursuit of cosmic order. The ancients did not see themselves as separate from the universe. They saw themselves as participants in its grand design. And as we explore their monuments and myths, we are invited to ask, were they architects only of stone, or were they attempting to mirror an eternal architecture far beyond human reach? From the dawn of civilization, geometry has carried with it an aura of mystery, a sense that its shapes and proportions do more than measure space. They reveal something fundamental about existence itself. Geometry is not just a human invention. It is a language written into the veins of leaves, the spirals of galaxies, and the architecture of ancient temples. When we look closer, we find that triangles, circles, spirals, and ratios are not arbitrary figures, but recurring signatures across the cosmos, as if the universe speaks in patterns of shape and proportion. This is the hidden code, sacred geometry, that has long been revered as the blueprint of creation. Take, for example, the simple circle. It is both beginning and end, without a starting point or final boundary. It appears in the orbits of planets, the ripples of water, the pupils of our eyes. For ancient cultures, the circle symbolized eternity, perfection, and unity. It was not merely a shape, but a statement about reality, that all things return to their origin, that life and death are part of a loop woven into the cosmic order. To draw a circle was to echo the movements of the heavens themselves. The triangle, equally simple, carried its own profound symbolism. Pythagoras and his followers saw in the right triangle a perfect harmony between sides and angles, a harmony that echoed in music, architecture, and the very laws of proportion. The pyramids of Egypt embody this reverence, their triangular faces rising toward the heavens, pointing like arrows to the eternal sky. To the ancients, the triangle represented stability and ascent, the balance of earth with a direction toward the divine. Even today, triangles appear in bridges, towers, and temples, their structural strength mirroring their symbolic power. Perhaps the most hauntingly beautiful example of sacred geometry is the spiral. Found in seashells, hurricanes, pine cones, and galaxies, spirals follow a pattern known as the Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the two preceding it. This sequence, discovered in mathematics, seems to guide the growth of living organisms and the structure of the cosmos itself. The golden spiral, derived from this sequence, recurs so often that it feels less like coincidence and more like a cosmic signature. It whispers of growth, expansion, and infinity, a shape that connects the microcosm of a nautilus shell to the macrocosm of galactic arms stretching across millions of light years. These shapes, circle, triangle, spiral, are more than mathematical curiosities. They appear in temples, cathedrals, and sacred art across the world. The mandalas of Buddhism, the rose windows of Gothic cathedrals, the intricate mosaics of Islamic architecture, all employ geometry not for decoration but for revelation. In these forms, artists and builders sought to align human creation with cosmic order, to make visible the invisible laws that guide the universe. When one stands inside a cathedral where every arch, column, and window has been arranged according to geometric proportion, the effect is not merely aesthetic but spiritual. The building becomes a mirror of the cosmos, a structure humming with the resonance of universal order. Even in modern science, geometry continues to reveal profound truths. Crystals grow with geometric precision, their molecular bonds arranging into perfect lattices. Snowflakes form with six-fold symmetry, each one unique yet governed by the same laws of proportion. The honeycomb, crafted instinctively by bees, reflects the efficiency of hexagonal geometry, which allows the maximum storage with the least material. Geometry is not a human invention imposed on nature. It is nature's own preference, the shape of efficiency, growth, and stability. Mathematics gives these forms numbers, ratios, and equations, but the sense of wonder they inspire goes beyond calculation. Consider the golden ratio, 1:618, a proportion that appears in art, architecture, and even human anatomy. Leonardo da Vinci used it in his drawings of the human body. Architects have employed it in temples, palaces, and even modern buildings. But the ratio's most haunting presence is in nature itself. In the spirals of galaxies, in the arrangement of sunflower seeds, in the structure of DNA. How can one proportion appear in so many unrelated places? Is it simply efficiency, or is it evidence of an underlying order, a hidden law that unites the living and the cosmic? The ancients believed geometry was the language of the gods. Plato declared that God geometrizes continually, suggesting that the act of creation itself is a mathematical process. To the Greeks, geometry was more than a tool. It was a way to glimpse the eternal. Pythagoras claimed that numbers were the essence of all things, that the universe itself was built on harmonic ratios. In their worldview, geometry was not human knowledge, but divine revelation, an invitation to see reality as a living structure of order and beauty. And yet, the question remains, are these patterns inherent in the universe, or do we impose them through the lens of human perception? When we draw a spiral across a galaxy, are we uncovering truth, or are we connecting dots that simply happen to align? The duality between discovery and invention haunts the study of sacred geometry. Perhaps we find these patterns because we are wired to look for order in chaos. Or perhaps we find them because they are truly there, waiting like an ancient code for the attentive to decode. What is certain is that geometry bridges science, philosophy, and spirituality in a way few other disciplines can. It is at once rational and mystical, measurable yet mysterious. It reassures us with precision while awakening us with beauty. When we stand before a spiral galaxy, or a cathedral window, or even the symmetry of a single snowflake, we are confronted with the possibility that the universe is not blind chaos but intentional design. The language of geometry may never fully reveal its speaker, but it continues to hint at the presence of something greater, an intelligence, a law, or an eternal order shaping all things. And as we trace these shapes across nature, art, and the stars, we are left with a haunting realization. Perhaps the universe has been speaking to us all along, not in words, but in lines, curves, and proportions that bind the infinite and the finite into a single, harmonious whole. When we look into the night sky, what we see appears tranquil, timeless, and serene. Stars glimmer as if frozen, planets shine with steady light, and the moon drifts slowly across the heavens. Yet behind this calm appearance lies a dynamic system of staggering precision, a universe in motion, governed by laws so exact that they resemble the gears of an immense, invisible clock. Celestial mechanics is the study of this motion, the hidden order that guides planets, moons, stars, and galaxies along their paths. To witness it is to discover that the universe is not random drifting, but an intricate dance choreographed by laws that never falter. Long before science could measure or predict these movements, ancient people sensed their rhythm. They saw the sun rise and set with unwavering regularity, the moon wax and wane in a perfect cycle, the stars return each season in patterns as faithful as breath. For them, these motions were not accidents, but signs of order written into the sky. The heavens became a calendar, a clock, a sacred script. To observe the stars was to commune with the architecture of time itself. It was Johannes Kepler who uncovered the hidden music of planetary motion. He realized that planets do not orbit in perfect circles, as once believed, but in ellipses, each orbit obeying mathematical harmony. His 3 laws of planetary motion revealed that planets sweep out equal areas in equal times, and that their distances from the sun are related to their orbital periods by precise ratios. What seemed at first like wandering chaos was revealed as elegant order. To Kepler, this was not just science, it was divine revelation. He called it the music of the spheres, imagining the planets as part of a cosmic symphony, each orbit producing a silent harmony too grand for human ears. Isaac Newton deepened this revelation with his law of universal gravitation. With one equation, he connected the fall of an apple to the orbit of the moon. Gravity was not merely a force felt on Earth. It was the invisible thread binding the cosmos together. Planets move as they do because of this unseen pull, their paths predictable, calculable, and precise. Newton's equations allowed astronomers to predict eclipses, transits, and even the return of comets with astonishing accuracy. The universe was no longer a mystery of divine whims. It was a system ordered and rational, like the gears of an immense celestial machine. This machine extends beyond our solar system. Stars orbit within galaxies. Galaxies swirl in clusters. Clusters drift within filaments of cosmic structure. Each movement follows patterns governed by gravity, inertia, and energy. Even the violent collisions of galaxies, though chaotic in appearance, follow the same predictable principles. Nothing is truly random. Even destruction unfolds according to order. It is as if the universe is a dancer whose every step, no matter how wild, still follows choreography. Celestial mechanics is not only grand, but intimate. It affects the tides on Earth, the stability of our seasons, the very possibility of life. Without the moon's gravitational influence, Earth's axis would wobble chaotically, seasons would destabilize, and life might never have flourished. Without the balance of forces that keeps Earth in orbit around the sun, we would either drift into frozen emptiness or spiral in a fiery annihilation. The harmony of celestial motion sustains us in ways we rarely consider, a silent guardianship woven into the background of existence. And yet, for all its predictability, celestial motion is not without mystery. Mercury's orbit, for instance, deviates slightly from Newton's predictions, a discrepancy that baffled astronomers until Einstein's theory of relativity explained it as the warping of spacetime itself. This revealed that the celestial machine was even more intricate than Newton had imagined, its gears not fixed in space, but woven into the fabric of reality. Einstein showed that massive bodies like the sun bend space and time, curving the paths of planets and light itself. Celestial mechanics was no longer just the clockwork of Newton. It was the geometry of space-time, a deeper and stranger order beneath the familiar one. This revelation reshaped our vision of the universe. The orbits of planets, the spirals of galaxies, the bending of light around distant stars, all could be explained by the same laws. The universe was both mechanical and poetic, both predictable and mysterious. Watching a planet glide across the sky was no longer merely observing a bright dot move. It was witnessing space-time itself curve and flow, an invisible architecture shaping the destiny of worlds. Yet, the beauty of celestial mechanics lies not only in its order, but in its contrasts. Supernovae explode, scattering debris into space. Black holes devour light and matter. Galaxies crash and merge in cataclysmic encounters. At first glance, these events appear as chaos incarnate. But even here, order persists. The elements forged in stellar explosions follow precise nuclear rules, seeding planets with carbon, oxygen, and iron. Black holes bend space-time in calculable ways, their gravity producing predictable jets and accretion disks. Colliding galaxies form new spirals, their stars settling into fresh orbits according to timeless principles. Chaos reveals itself, again, as a mask for order. Perhaps the most humbling aspect of celestial mechanics is its permanence. The laws that guided the orbits of planets millions of years ago are the same laws that will govern their paths millions of years from now. Stars are born, live, and die according to predictable stages, following life cycles written into their very mass and composition. Galaxies themselves evolve, yet always according to gravitational choreography. The universe is change, but it is ordered change, a perpetual flow bound by invisible laws. And so, as we look upward into the sky, we are not gazing into randomness, but into motion as precise as any machine, as beautiful as any symphony. Celestial mechanics reveals that the universe is alive with order, an order that sustains life, shapes time, and echoes eternity. Yet behind this comfort lingers a deeper question. If such precise laws govern the stars and planets, then what governs the laws themselves? Who, or what, is the architect of the architecture? When one contemplates the universe, the mind is struck not only by its immensity, but also by its astonishing sense of balance. The cosmos does not unfold as an unshaped chaos of scattered stars and drifting dust. Instead, it is filled with recurring structures, harmonious proportions, and mirrored designs. This hidden order, often described as cosmic symmetry, reveals itself in the spirals of galaxies, the delicate geometry of snowflakes, the orbits of planets, and even the distribution of matter across vast cosmic webs. Everywhere one looks, from the smallest particle to the grandest galaxy cluster, there are echoes of balance, repetition, and proportion. Symmetry is the silent signature of the cosmos, the mark of an underlying intelligence woven into the fabric of reality. Ancient civilizations sensed this symmetry long before modern science could articulate it. They observed that the heavens followed cycles, the moon renewing itself every month, the sun tracing its yearly path, the stars returning in seasonal constellations. To them, this repetition was not mere coincidence, but the language of a universe, a message written in the sky. Sacred structures, pyramids, temples, stone circles, were often built to mirror celestial alignments, embodying the belief that harmony on earth must reflect harmony in the heavens. The symmetry of the cosmos became a guide for architecture, ritual, and philosophy, as if humanity instinctively sought to live within the rhythm of a greater design. Modern science has uncovered these patterns at every scale. Galaxies, for example, often form spirals with arms curving in golden proportions, their structures echoing the logarithmic spirals found in seashells and hurricanes. This resemblance is not superficial, but rooted in mathematics. The same equations that describe fluid motion, growth, and equilibrium also describe the formation of galaxies. In this way, the spiral is not only a symbol of beauty, but a universal form, connecting the microscopic and the cosmic. Such parallels suggest that symmetry is not limited to one realm of existence, but pervades all levels of reality. On the quantum scale, symmetry manifests in the laws of physics themselves. The particles that compose matter follow symmetrical rules of transformation, balance, and conservation. These symmetries are so fundamental that when they're broken, when the balance tips even slightly, the consequences are profound. The existence of matter itself is the result of a subtle asymmetry in the early universe, when matter ever so slightly outweighed antimatter. This tiny imperfection allowed stars, planets, and life to exist. Thus, symmetry is not rigid perfection, but a dynamic balance, capable of allowing creation through its occasional breaking. In the architecture of spacetime, symmetry appears in even more mysterious ways. Einstein's theory of relativity is built upon the principle that the laws of physics remain symmetrical regardless of perspective, whether one moves slowly or at near-light speeds, whether one is at rest or in motion. This symmetry of physical laws ensures the consistency of reality, making the universe intelligible and stable. Without it, existence would collapse into chaos, with different rules governing different vantage points. Symmetry, therefore, is not simply an aesthetic feature. It is the backbone of order itself. At the cosmic scale, the distribution of galaxies across the universe also reflects symmetry. Astronomical surveys reveal a web-like structure. Galaxies clump into clusters, clusters form filaments, and between them stretch vast voids. Though the details may appear irregular, the overall pattern exhibits statistical symmetry. The same balance of distribution appears no matter where one looks, no matter the scale. This fractal-like repetition evokes a sense of infinite mirroring, as if the universe is a self-reflecting design without a center or edge. It is a cosmos where symmetry whispers across distances too vast for the imagination to fully grasp. Symmetry also resonates with human psychology. We are naturally drawn to balanced forms, whether in art, music, or nature. A perfectly symmetrical face, a well-composed melody, or a geometric pattern brings us a sense of calm and beauty. It is as if the human mind is attuned to recognize echoes of cosmic order, finding peace in what reflects the harmony of the universe. This connection may not be accidental. After all, our minds and senses are products of the same cosmos that generates these symmetries. To perceive beauty in symmetry is to recognize, at some level, our kinship with the universe. But symmetry is not static perfection. It exists in tension with asymmetry, and it is this interplay that allows complexity to flourish. Too much symmetry, and the universe would be sterile, a frozen mirror of sameness. Too little, and it would dissolve into disorder. Instead, reality balances between the two, weaving harmony with variation, order with surprise. A snowflake, for example, forms with six-fold symmetry, yet each one is unique. Galaxies spiral in similar forms, yet no two are identical. Life itself arises from symmetrical DNA, yet produces infinite diversity. The cosmos seems to prefer this delicate balance, where symmetry provides the framework and asymmetry gives birth to individuality. Philosophically, cosmic symmetry raises profound questions. Why should the universe be ordered at all? Why should its laws exhibit elegance and balance rather than chaos? Some argue that symmetry is evidence of deeper principles, perhaps even consciousness at the foundation of reality. Others see it as a natural outcome of mathematics, with the universe simply reflecting the inevitability of number and proportion. Whatever the answer, symmetry invites awe, reminding us that behind the vast diversity of forms lies a unifying language that transcends scale and time. To look into the universe, then, is to glimpse a pattern of balance and harmony so immense that it defies comprehension. From the orbit of electrons to the spin of galaxies, from the rise of civilizations to the very laws of physics, symmetry threads its way through existence like an eternal refrain. It is the hidden rhythm that binds the cosmos together, a reminder that even in infinite variety, there is unity. And perhaps, in perceiving this symmetry, humanity touches the edge of a deeper truth, that we too are part of this balance, shaped by the same laws, sustained by the same harmony, and destined to reflect the order of the infinite. From the moment humanity first carved symbols into stone, numbers have stood as both tools and mysteries. To count sheep in a flock or tally trade in the marketplace was practical, but soon numbers became more than utility. They began to feel sacred, as though each carried hidden meaning. Ancient thinkers saw in numbers not mere marks on clay tablets, but keys to the architecture of the cosmos. To them, mathematics was not invented, but discovered, a universal language written into the foundations of reality. Even today, we cannot escape this suspicion that numbers are not human creations, but eternal truths whispering the secrets of existence. The Pythagoreans were among the first to declare openly what many cultures intuited. To them, numbers were the essence of all things, the ultimate substance of reality. The number 1 symbolized unity, the origin of all. 2 represented duality, the tension between opposites. 3 signified harmony, for stability. Beyond symbols, they found astonishing correspondences. The harmonious notes of a lyre could be explained by whole number ratios of string lengths. Music, once thought to be divine, was revealed to be mathematical. Suddenly the boundary between art and science dissolved, replaced by the conviction that numbers structured both the beauty we hear and the heavens we observe. Geometry deepened this vision. Shapes were not arbitrary but bound by number. The triangle with its 3 sides, the square with its 4, the circle embodying infinity. The golden ratio, an irrational number hidden in spirals and proportions, became a symbol of perfection. Architects embedded it into temples, artists into paintings, nature into shells and flowers. Even galaxies seemed to bend towards curve. The persistence of such patterns across disciplines and scales gives weight to the idea that mathematics is the underlying script of the cosmos, a script we are only beginning to read. As centuries unfolded, the connection between numbers and the cosmos only grew stronger. Kepler described planetary motion in terms of precise mathematical laws, transforming celestial harmony into equations. Newton revealed that gravity itself could be measured, predicted, and expressed numerically. The night sky was no longer a canvas of myth alone, but a diagram of forces, trajectories, and ratios. To grasp numbers was to grasp the mechanics of creation itself. The universe, once interpreted through ritual and story, now sang a mathematical symphony of order. Yet numbers also harbor mystery. They extend into infinities that defy comprehension, into decimals that never end, into primes that scatter unpredictably yet hold the fabric of encryption and security today. They form equations describing black holes, quantum uncertainty, and the curvature of spacetime. At times, numbers appear to reach beyond human understanding, hinting that there is always more to uncover, more depth hidden in their quiet logic. Even in their abstraction, numbers evoke awe, their precision balancing against their endlessness. The language of numbers is not just descriptive, it is predictive. Equations written on chalkboards have pointed scientists toward discoveries long before evidence arrived. New particles, new planets, new possibilities. Numbers seem to know more than we do, unfolding truths ahead of our senses. Einstein once said that the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. Perhaps he was pointing to this strange fact. The human mind, by aligning with mathematics, can anticipate the very laws of existence. But why should the universe obey numbers at all? Why should reality conform to equations rather than chaos? This question lingers at the edge of philosophy and science alike. Some argue that mathematics is simply the language our minds impose on the world, a useful fiction. Others counter that numbers are woven into reality itself, existing independent of human thought. If humans had never evolved, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter would still be pi. The orbits of planets would still trace ellipses. Gravity would still fall along curves of geometry. This suggests that numbers are not inventions, but discoveries, truths waiting in the dark until we uncover them. Emotionally, numbers stir a deep duality. On one hand, they offer comfort, suggesting a universe governed by rules, not randomness. On the other, they reveal vastness and strangeness that humble the human mind. Infinity, for instance, is both exhilarating and terrifying, an endless ocean where meaning risks drowning. Zero, too, is unsettling, a void turned into a symbol, a nothing that paradoxically becomes something essential. Through such ideas, numbers stretch human imagination into realms where logic borders on the mystical. This hidden language has power beyond science. It shapes economies, technologies, and societies, directing the pulse of human civilization. Algorithms built from numbers decide what we see online, how we travel, and even how we dream of artificial intelligence. In this sense, numbers not only describe reality, but actively shape it, guiding the future as much as they reveal the past. As we contemplate the hidden language of numbers, we are left with wonder and unease. Numbers are both mirrors and mysteries, showing us patterns that feel too elegant to be accidental. They bridge the tangible and the abstract, the earthly and the cosmic. To decode them is to step closer to the architects of order themselves, whether they are natural laws, divine minds, or structures beyond human comprehension. For now, numbers remain an unfinished book with infinite chapters still unopened, waiting for us to turn the page. Across the ruins of forgotten civilizations, etched in stone and aligned with the heavens, lies a mystery that has haunted archaeologists, mathematicians, and philosophers alike. Why did ancient builders obsess over geometry? From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the silent stones of Stonehenge, from the temples of Angkor, what to the spirals of the Nazca Desert, sacred architecture seems to pulse with hidden mathematics. These were not random constructions, but deliberate expressions of cosmic order, monuments designed to mirror the architecture of the skies. Geometry, for the ancients, was not just measurement. It was a language of divinity, a bridge between earth and the eternal. The Egyptians believed that to build was to participate in the cosmic act of creation. Their pyramids, rising with flawless precision, were aligned with cardinal directions and celestial bodies. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, encodes within its proportions astonishing mathematical constants. The ratio of its height to its base reflects pi, while the angles of its slopes hint at the golden ratio. These are not coincidences. To the Egyptians, geometry symbolized stability, eternity, and the perfection of the gods. Each block of stone, placed with painstaking care, was an offering to the universal order, ensuring that the structure would endure as long as the stars themselves. Stonehenge, on the windswept plains of England, offers another glimpse into sacred geometry. The arrangement of its massive stones aligns with solstices and equinoxes, turning the monument into a calendar of the heavens. It is not merely a circle of rocks, but a deliberate geometric design that captures the movements of the sun and moon. The builders, though lacking written records, left behind a structure that speaks in geometry across millennia, whispering their belief that human life was inseparable from celestial cycles. To stand within Stonehenge is to stand inside a cosmic diagram, where the geometry of stones echoes the geometry of the skies. In the East, Hindu and Buddhist temples were constructed according to precise geometric blueprints known as mandalas. These sacred diagrams, composed of squares, circles, and triangles, represented the cosmos itself. The temple became a living mandala, a three-dimensional embodiment of divine order, guiding worshippers from the chaos of the outer world into the harmony of the inner sanctum. Every angle, every measurement carried meaning. The geometry was not only architectural, but spiritual, a map for the soul's journey toward enlightenment. Even across the oceans, the Mayans and Aztecs built pyramids that aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and planetary movements. The Pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, for instance, was designed so that on the spring and autumn equinoxes, the sun casts a serpent-shaped shadow along the staircase, a fusion of light, geometry, and myth. This was not coincidence, but intention. The builders encoded their cosmology into stone, ensuring that each generation would witness the dance of gods and numbers across the face of their temples. Underlying these monuments is the sacred symbol of the circle and its infinite geometry. The circle, with no beginning and no end, became a representation of eternity, the divine cycle of life and death, the perfection of the heavens. Triangles symbolized balance, pyramids eternal ascent, and spirals the unfolding of creation. These forms appear again and again, across continents and cultures, suggesting a universal intuition. That geometry was the hidden architecture of reality, and by embedding it into their temples and cities, humanity could align itself with the very order of the cosmos. Modern researchers often marvel at the precision of ancient geometry, sometimes suggesting advanced knowledge lost to time. How did primitive tools carve monuments with tolerances rivaling modern engineering? How were alignments so exact that they captured celestial events across centuries? Skeptics argue for chance, yet the consistency of geometry across cultures separated by oceans and time suggests otherwise. There seems to be a timeless recognition that numbers and shapes were not inventions, but revelations, glimpses of a structure larger than humanity itself. Geometry also carried philosophical weight. Plato taught that geometry was the highest form of knowledge, a path toward truth that transcended the senses. He imagined the universe composed of perfect geometric solids, each representing an element of nature. Fire as the tetrahedron, earth as the cube, air as the octahedron, water as the icosahedron, and the cosmos itself as the dodecahedron. To study geometry was to study the mind of the divine, to glimpse the perfection that lay behind the imperfections of the physical world. Even in Islamic architecture, where the depiction of living beings was often forbidden, sacred geometry blossomed into breathtaking patterns of stars, tessellations, and arabesques. Mosques became canvases of infinite repetition, their walls and domes covered in designs that reflected the order of the universe. These patterns were not decorative, but metaphysical, an attempt to remind the worshipper that divine unity expresses itself in endless symmetry, balance, and proportion. To walk beneath these domes was to walk within a universe of number and light. The geometry of the gods, then, is more than ancient architecture. It is a philosophy of existence. It suggests that the universe itself is a temple, that reality is structured according to principles we can glimpse through shapes and numbers. To live in harmony with this geometry was to live in harmony with the cosmos. To ignore it was to risk chaos and disintegration. Even today, modern architects and physicists are drawn back to these same forms, embedding golden ratios in buildings, discovering fractals in nature, and finding that the mathematics of symmetry still guides our understanding of beauty and truth. And yet, an unsettling question lingers. Did ancient builders simply reflect what they saw in nature, or were they channeling knowledge from a source beyond themselves, an inherited memory of cosmic architecture? Were the gods they honored metaphors for universal order, or were they real intelligences who imprinted their geometry into human hands? These questions, unanswered and haunting, ensure that the geometry of the gods remains not just history, but mystery. Each stone, each alignment, each spiral reminds us that perhaps the universe is a temple, and geometry its sacred scripture. Long before humanity could measure the vibrations of strings or chart the frequencies of stars, there was an intuition that sound and harmony were woven into the fabric of reality itself. The ancients believed that the cosmos was not silent, but resonant, that existence itself hummed with music too vast for human ears. They called it the music of the spheres, an eternal symphony produced by the motions of celestial bodies. Though inaudible, this harmony was thought to shape everything, from the balance of planets in orbit to the rhythms of human life. The universe was not only built on geometry and number, but also on vibration and resonance. Pythagoras, the philosopher who first uncovered the mathematical ratios of musical intervals, believed he had discovered a cosmic truth. When he plucked a lyre's string and divided it into simple proportions, he revealed that harmony could be expressed in numbers. A string half its length produced a note 1 octave higher, while other ratios created intervals that humans found pleasing. To Pythagoras, this was not just a discovery about instruments, but about the cosmos itself. If music could be explained by numbers, then perhaps the heavens were ordered by the same principles. The planets, moving in their orbits, generated a silent music, a cosmic harmony underlying existence. Modern science, centuries later, has found echoes of this ancient idea. In astrophysics, stars vibrate like colossal instruments, their surfaces rippling with oscillations. These vibrations can be translated into sound frequencies, revealing the internal structures of stars much like a doctor listens to a heartbeat. Even black holes, the darkest entities in the cosmos, emit gravitational waves that ripple through spacetime like deep bass notes resonating through the universe. The cosmic symphony is real, though it is not carried by air, but by the very fabric of space itself. At every scale, vibration and resonance appear fundamental. Atoms themselves hum with energy, their electrons existing not as fixed points, but as waves. Matter is not silent. It sings in quantum tones, existing in patterns of resonance and probability. The universe, at its most basic level, seems less like a machine and more like a vast orchestra, with each particle playing its part in the eternal score. The implication is staggering. Reality may be structured as much by harmony as by geometry. This idea has also shaped human spirituality. Across cultures, chants, hymns, and mantras have been used to align the human soul with cosmic order. The vibration of sacred syllables was believed to tune the body and mind to the frequencies of the divine. In Hindu philosophy, the sound Om is said to be the primordial vibration, the resonance from which the universe itself emerged. In Christian mysticism, choirs sang to create harmony that echoed heavenly order. In Tibetan practice, monks used deep overtone chanting to embody the vibrations of the cosmos within their own bodies. Everywhere, music became more than expression. It became participation in cosmic resonance. Even architecture absorbed this vision. Great cathedrals were designed with acoustics in mind, so that chants and hymns filled the space with reverberations that seemed to dissolve the barrier between human and divine. Islamic mosques, Hindu temples, and Buddhist stupas were also infused with harmonic geometry, combining sound and structure into sacred spaces where the human body resonated with the cosmos. Sacred architecture was never silent. It was meant to sing. But harmony is not only beauty, it is also tension. Music requires dissonance as well as consonance, moments of instability before resolution. The universe reflects this same balance. Galaxies spin, stars explode, black holes consume, and yet out of this chaos emerges structure and beauty. Like a symphony, the cosmos weaves discord and harmony into a narrative that transcends either alone. The presence of suffering, destruction, and entropy may be part of the larger harmony, dissonant notes that only reveal their purpose when the full score is heard. Philosophically, the harmonic universe raises questions that border on the mystical. If reality vibrates, then could consciousness itself be a form of resonance? Some scientists suggest the brain operates in frequencies, its neural oscillations producing the rhythms of thought and perception. If so, perhaps awareness itself is an instrument of the cosmos, tuned to resonate with deeper truths. Mystics and philosophers alike have long argued that to align one's life with harmony is to live in tune with reality itself. Disorder, by contrast, is the result of disharmony, of living out of sync with the universal score. The harmonic vision also carries hope. If the universe is a symphony, then meaning is not accidental but inherent. Each being, each particle, each moment contributes to the whole. Even when we cannot hear it, we are part of a music greater than ourselves. Life's tragedies, too, may be notes in a larger composition whose resolution we cannot yet perceive. This perspective transforms despair into awe, reminding us that we are not lost in silence, but immersed in a song too vast for our ears. Still, a mystery endures. Who, if anyone, is the composer? Is the harmony of the universe a natural consequence of mathematics and physics, or is it the deliberate creation of some greater intelligence? Are we players in a symphony with no conductor, or does an unseen architect guide the cosmic music? The answer remains elusive, but the question itself is enough to fill us with wonder. For even if no composer exists, the symphony still resounds, infinite and eternal, binding stars, atoms, and souls into one grand resonance. From the moment the first human gazed at the moving sun and shifting shadows, time has been the most elusive of mysteries. Unlike space, which we can see and measure, time slips through our fingers like sand. We cannot touch it, cannot halt it, cannot return to it once it has passed. Yet time governs everything. The birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of civilizations, the rhythm of our own heartbeat. For the ancients, time was not merely a measure of duration, but a divine architecture, an invisible framework that gave shape to existence. Those who sought to understand time were seen not as mere observers, but as interpreters of a sacred order, the architects of human destiny in alignment with the cosmos. Ancient cultures perceived time in cycles rather than straight lines. The Mayans charted the heavens with astonishing accuracy, building calendars that stretched across millennia. To them, time was sacred, divided into great cycles called bactons, each carrying profound spiritual meaning. They believed history itself was destined to repeat, with each cycle reflecting the eternal dance of creation and destruction. The Mayan calendar was not simply a tool for marking days, but a cosmic script, reminding humanity of its place within a repeating pattern written by forces beyond comprehension. In the East, Hindu philosophy described time as an infinite wheel, the great cycle of yugas, vast epochs of creation, decline, and renewal. According to this vision, the universe has no true beginning or end. It turns endlessly, like a wheel without spokes, carrying with it both despair and hope. Destruction was not the final word, but a prelude to rebirth, a reminder that time itself was the architect of both endings and beginnings. To live within this cycle was to accept impermanence, yet also to find comfort in the certainty of renewal. Contrast this with the Abrahamic traditions, which often describe time as linear, a progression from creation toward an ultimate fulfillment. Here, time was a story, not a cycle, a narrative with a divine author moving history toward judgment, redemption, and renewal. The architects of time in these traditions were the prophets, who revealed glimpses of a timeline that stretched beyond human comprehension. This duality, cyclical time versus linear time, still shapes our world today, influencing how we perceive history, progress, and destiny. The physical universe, too, is bound by time's architecture. Stars are born, burn with brilliance, and collapse into darkness. Galaxies spin for billions of years, only to dissolve into entropy. Even the universe itself appears to have a beginning. The Big Bang, when time and space erupted into being. Before that singularity, our concepts of before and after lose all meaning. Time itself had an origin, a point beyond which human thought cannot reach. In this sense, time is not only a measurement, but the very stage upon which existence unfolds, inseparable from space, matter, and energy. Einstein's theory of relativity shattered humanity's simple view of time. No longer absolute, time became elastic, bending and stretching depending on speed and gravity. A clock near a black hole ticks more slowly than one on Earth, and an astronaut traveling near the speed of light could return home to find centuries have passed. Time, once thought to be universal, revealed itself to be subjective, woven into the very fabric of space. Suddenly, the architects of time were not gods alone, but physicists, uncovering equations that reshaped our understanding of reality. Yet even as science exposes time's mysteries, it leaves us with unsettling questions. If the universe began with the Big Bang, will it end with a final collapse, a heat death, or something stranger still? Is time infinite, or does it loop back upon itself like the cycles described by the ancients? Could we one day manipulate time, traveling backward or forward through its currents? These questions remind us that time is not fully understood, even by our most advanced theories. It remains both a scientific frontier and a philosophical abyss. Time's architecture also governs our personal lives. We measure our days by the rising and setting sun, our years by the turning of the earth, our lifespans by the rhythm of aging. Clocks, calendars, and schedules attempt to tame time, but beneath them lies a truth we cannot control. Our time is finite. Death gives time its sharpest meaning, for without it, moments would blur into an endless continuum. The brevity of existence forces us to value each instant, to build, love, and create before the sands run out. In this sense, time is both a tyrant and a gift, the architect of mortality and meaning alike. Artists, poets, and mystics have long sought to defy time's tyranny. Through memory, art, and story, we preserve moments beyond their passing, extending them into eternity. To write, to build, to sing is to rebel against time, to inscribe something lasting into the shifting sands. Yet even these creations are fragile. Temples crumble, empires fall, languages vanish. Still, the attempt to outwit time persists, for within this struggle lies the essence of humanity's yearning, to touch the eternal, even if only for a breath. Ultimately, the architects of time, whether gods, scientists, or philosophers, invite us to see time not as an enemy, but as a structure that gives meaning to existence. Without it, there would be no change, no growth, no story to tell. With it, life becomes precious, fleeting, and beautiful. Perhaps the true architecture of time lies not in its measurement or manipulation, but in our recognition of its value. To live in awareness of time is to live fully, to honor the past, embrace the present, and step into the unknown future with reverence. Time remains the most mysterious architect of all, silent yet absolute. It shapes stars, civilizations, and souls, and yet it hides its own essence behind a veil we cannot pierce. We walk within its corridors, hearing its echoes, yet never glimpsing its origin or end. And so, humanity continues its pursuit, listening for the ticking of the cosmic clock, wondering whether it is counting down to an ending or upward to eternity. Human beings experience time as a seamless flow, a continuous river carrying us from the past through the present into the future. This sense of uninterrupted motion feels so natural that we seldom question it. Yet modern physics, philosophy, and even neuroscience suggest that this continuity may be an illusion, a trick of perception woven by our minds to make sense of a reality far stranger than we imagine. To explore this possibility is to walk into one of the deepest paradoxes of existence. If time is not continuous, what, then, is the nature of reality itself? Consider how the brain processes the world. Neuroscientists have discovered that what we perceive as now is not a single, precise moment, but a stitched-together construction. Our senses gather information in fragments, and the brain delays perception by a fraction of a second, blending these fragments into a smooth experience of the present. In other words, continuity is a psychological creation. Without it, the world would appear disjointed, like frames of a film reel seen individually rather than in motion. Just as cinema creates the illusion of movement through still images, consciousness creates the illusion of flowing time through discrete neurological snapshots. This idea aligns intriguingly with certain interpretations of quantum mechanics. At the smallest scales of reality, particles do not move in a continuous path, but exist as probabilities, appearing and disappearing in unpredictable bursts. Reality, then, might not unfold smoothly, but in quantum jumps, tiny discontinuities hidden beneath our everyday perception. If the universe itself operates in discrete intervals, our sense of time as an unbroken stream may be a comforting simplification, a human adaptation to a far less orderly truth. Philosophers have long wrestled with this puzzle. The ancient Greek thinker Zeno proposed paradoxes suggesting that motion itself is impossible if time and space are infinitely divisible. His famous paradox of Achilles and the tortoise imagines a race in which Achilles can never overtake the slower tortoise, because he must first reach the point where the tortoise was, by which time it has moved ahead. Though mathematics and calculus eventually resolve these paradoxes, the deeper question lingers. Is continuity real, or is it only an assumption we impose upon reality? Relativity further complicates the matter. According to Einstein, time is not universal but relative, experienced differently depending on speed and gravity. From this perspective, events that seem simultaneous to one observer may unfold at different times for another. The notion of a single, continuous present becomes slippery, replaced by a vast spacetime fabric in which all events, past, present, and future, coexist. Continuity, then, may be no more than a local perception within a greater timeless structure. This possibility leads to unsettling but fascinating implications. If all of time already exists, if the past and future are just as real as the present, then continuity is a subjective illusion, a way for conscious beings to navigate existence moment by moment. In this block universe view, time does not flow at all. Instead, every event is fixed like pages in a book. We experience them sequentially because our consciousness moves across them, not because time itself is in motion. Yet humans cling to continuity because it gives meaning to our lives. We tell stories with beginnings, middles, and ends. We mark progress, celebrate milestones, and anticipate futures. Without continuity, concepts like growth, memory, and destiny lose coherence. To suggest that continuity is an illusion is to challenge not only our understanding of physics, but also our sense of identity. For if time is not flowing, what does it mean to say that we become anything? Are we not already all that we ever were and all that we will be? Mystical traditions echo this intuition in their own ways. Some describe the eternal present as the only true reality, with past and future existing only in the mind. In deep meditation, practitioners sometimes report slipping outside the illusion of continuity, entering a state where time dissolves and only a timeless awareness remains. Such experiences hint that the flow of time may not be an objective feature of reality, but a veil over a deeper truth. Science, too, edges toward this possibility. In quantum physics, the collapse of probabilities into definite outcomes suggests that time may emerge from deeper, timeless laws. Some theories propose that continuity itself is emergent, arising only at large scales from underlying discrete processes. If this is true, then the smooth river of time we experience is not fundamental but constructed, a grand illusion necessary for conscious beings to make sense of existence. And yet, even if continuity is an illusion, It is a powerful and necessary one. Without it, we could not navigate the world, form relationships, or build civilizations. Continuity allows us to bind memory to anticipation, to carry lessons from the past into the future. It may not be absolute, but it is functional, an architecture of perception that sustains meaning in human life. The illusion of continuity, then, is not a deception to be dismissed, but a mystery to be revered. It reminds us that reality is layered, that beneath the surface of ordinary experience lies a cosmos that defies intuition. To question continuity is not to strip life of meaning, but to deepen our wonder at existence. For in recognizing that time's flow may be a creation of the mind, we glimpse the profound, that what we take as most certain may be the most mysterious of all. Silence has always carried a weight far greater than sound. Across cultures and centuries, silence has been revered not merely as the absence of noise, but as a gateway to truths hidden beneath the surface of perception. In the vastness of the cosmos, silence is the dominant language, a profound stillness in which stars are born, galaxies collide, and universes expand without a whisper. To listen to this silence is to sense that something or someone has inscribed an order into the very fabric of existence. It is within this silence that many civilizations believe the architects of cosmic order left their signatures, subtle and elusive, yet undeniable. Picture the ancients gathered beneath the stars. Fire crackles at the center of the circle, but beyond its glow stretches the infinite stillness of the night. No machines, no city lights, no digital hum. Only the quiet pulse of existence itself. In such silence, the rhythm of the cosmos becomes audible in its own way. The rising of constellations, the cycles of the moon, the eternal return of the seasons. For these early observers, silence was not emptiness. It was a canvas upon which divine intention was painted. The quiet sky was a script, and to sit in silence beneath, it was to read a cosmic manuscript left by the unseen architects of order. Philosophers, mystics, and poets have often spoken of silence as the origin of wisdom. The Tao Te Ching begins not with declarations, but with an acknowledgement of mystery too vast for words. In Hindu thought, the sound Om is not just a vibration, but the resonant silence from which all creation emerges. Mystics of many traditions have claimed that silence is the point of contact between the human soul and the infinite, where boundaries dissolve and the mind brushes against the architecture of existence itself. In silence, they sensed order not through equations, but through direct, wordless communion. But silence is not always serene. The silence of deep space is also terrifying, a void without air, where no sound can travel, where explosions of stars and violent collisions of galaxies play out in utter muteness. This silence reminds us of our fragility, of the fact that sound, warmth, and life cling only to small islands within the infinite abyss. It evokes dread, the sense that if there are architects of order, they may not be kind, or even aware of us at all. The contrast between the silence of comfort and the silence of terror lies at the heart of humanity's search for meaning. Modern science has uncovered silence in unexpected places. Atoms themselves are mostly empty space, silent voids where particles flicker in and out of existence according to strange rules. The quantum vacuum, once thought to be truly empty, hums with fluctuations that arise from nothing, a silence that is never truly silent. Even at the cosmic scale, the universe is expanding into silence, galaxies drifting farther apart until, billions of years from now, stars will burn out and darkness will dominate. Scientists call it heat death, a future in which the universe's final state is one of eternal silence. Here again, silence becomes an architect, not of beginnings but of endings, structuring the very destiny of all matter and energy. Yet silence also creates space for meaning. Without silence, sound would be incomprehensible. Without the pauses between notes, music would collapse into noise. Silence provides the structure that allows pattern, rhythm, and order to emerge. In this sense, silence itself acts as an invisible architect, shaping the boundaries of perception and experience. Just as the blank spaces in a manuscript give form to words, the silent stretches of the cosmos give context to its luminous wonders. There is another form of silence, the silence of unanswered questions. For all our telescopes and equations, the greatest mysteries remain mute. What sparked the birth of the universe? Why does order emerge from chaos? Is consciousness an accident of matter or a fundamental feature of reality? These questions linger in silence, haunting us precisely because the universe refuses to answer them directly. And yet, in that refusal lies a strange invitation. Perhaps the silence itself is the answer, urging us to seek, to wonder, to never be satisfied with the illusion of finality. The architects of silence may not be literal beings, but principles, forces that govern existence without revealing themselves. Entropy, symmetry, gravity, these are silent shapers of reality, unseen but absolute. They leave no inscriptions, yet their effects define the universe's architecture. To study them is to engage with silence scientifically, to translate its language into mathematics and models. Yet even the most advanced theories carry with them a sense of awe, as though behind the equations lingers something deeper, something beyond articulation. But there is also a human silence, the kind that arises when words are insufficient. When astronauts gaze back at Earth from orbit, they often describe a profound silence within themselves, a quieting of thought as they confront the fragility of our planet against the blackness of space. This overview effect is transformative, not because of what they hear, but because of what they do not. In the silence of the cosmos, the noise of ego and division falls away, replaced by a recognition of interconnectedness. The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting the architecture not only of the universe, but of human consciousness itself. And so we return to the paradox. Silence is both absence and presence, terror and comfort, void and foundation. It conceals and reveals, destroys and creates. It is the medium through which the architects of cosmic order, whether divine, natural, or imagined, speak most profoundly. To listen to silence is to confront the unknown, but also to sense that beneath the unknown lies structure, intention, perhaps even meaning. The section ends with a question rather than an answer. Is silence merely the background against which the universe unfolds, or is it the very architect of that unfolding? In the stillness between heartbeats, in the blackness between stars, in the unanswered mysteries that linger in human thought, perhaps silence is the closest we come to touching the hidden blueprint of reality. From the spiraling galaxies in deep space to the spirals of seashells found on our shores, the universe often reveals itself through patterns of geometry. Shapes emerge in places where we least expect them. Hexagons on the poles of Saturn, snowflakes with crystalline symmetry, the branching of rivers echoing the branching of neurons. These are not random occurrences. They are hints that beneath the apparent chaos lies a hidden order, a geometric code that stretches from the microscopic to the cosmic. This section plunges into that mystery, asking whether the architects of order, be they natural laws or something beyond, write reality itself in the language of geometry. For the ancient Greeks, geometry was more than mathematics. It was philosophy, even theology. Pythagoras and his followers believed numbers and shapes were divine truths, the eternal architecture behind fleeting appearances. They saw harmony in the ratios of musical notes and symmetry in the heavens. To them, geometry was not invented, but discovered, like a sacred text already inscribed into the cosmos. And though modern science has advanced far beyond their simple models, the intuition remains powerful. Geometry is not merely descriptive, but fundamental. Consider the circle. It appears in planetary orbits, in the ripples of water, in the eye's pupil, and in the very definition of symmetry. The circle represents perfection, without beginning or end. Civilizations have used it to symbolize eternity, unity, and the divine. Then there is the triangle, the simplest polygon, forming the basis of stability in structures, pyramids, and crystalline lattices. The triangle is the atom of geometry, from which more complex forms emerge. Together, these shapes suggest that order is not imposed from the outside, but emerges from within the very structure of reality. The Fibonacci sequence, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, offers another window into cosmic architecture. Its spiral pattern appears in sunflower seeds, hurricanes, spiral galaxies, and the DNA molecule. This recurrence across scales suggests a principle of growth and expansion woven into the fabric of nature. But why should numbers discovered on paper also dictate the growth of plants or the swirling arms of galaxies? Is it mere coincidence, or a sign that mathematics and geometry are not human inventions but universal laws? Sacred geometry, a concept found in many ancient cultures, takes this intuition further. The flower of life, Metatron's cube, the Sri Yantra. These symbols were not only decorative but believed to embody the structure of reality itself. Temples, pyramids, and cathedrals were constructed according to geometric ratios, as though aligning human creations with cosmic order. While skeptics dismiss these connections as mystical embellishments, the persistence of geometry in both science and spirituality suggests that humans instinctively recognize it as a bridge between the material and the transcendent. Modern physics also echoes this insight. Einstein's general relativity describes gravity not as a force, but as the curvature of spacetime, a geometry so vast that planets and light itself follow its lines. Quantum field theories depend on symmetries, elegant mathematical structures that dictate how particles behave. Even string theory, one of the most ambitious attempts to unify physics, describes reality as vibrating strings existing in higher dimensional geometric spaces. In this view, the universe is not built of matter, but of shape, form, and symmetry, the pure essence of geometry. And yet, geometry is not always comforting. The fractal edge of chaos demonstrates how infinite complexity can arise from simple shapes. Mandelbrot sets and Julius sets reveal infinite patterns within patterns, spirals within spirals, a geometry of endless depth. Staring into these fractals evokes both wonder and unease. The recognition that infinity is not abstract but tangible, that beneath every form lies another, stretching forever. If there are architects of order, they may not build in straight lines or smooth surfaces, but in endless recursive loops that defy human comprehension. But geometry is not only external, it is within us. The branching of veins in our bodies mirrors the branching of rivers and lightning. The structure of neurons echoes the cosmic web of galaxies. Our very thoughts may be shaped by the same patterns that guide the universe's expansion. In this mirroring, we glimpse a profound connection. To understand geometry is to understand not only the cosmos but ourselves. We are participants in the same infinite architecture, both observers and expressions of its design. Geometry also holds a paradox. It is at once universal and fragile. In the perfect world of mathematics, shapes are absolute. A circle is flawless, a triangle exact. But in nature, perfection is elusive. No planet traces a perfect circle. No snowflake is perfectly symmetrical. The architects of order seem to write with both precision and imperfection, weaving geometry into reality, but allowing room for variation, chaos, and surprise. Perhaps it is in this tension between form and freedom that true beauty arises. As we look deeper, geometry becomes a mirror for our own search for meaning. To see spirals and galaxies and flowers alike fills us with awe, as though we are uncovering a universal script. But the script is written in a language we only partially understand, hinting at truths that remain just beyond our grasp. Is geometry the code of nature, the handwriting of God, or a reflection of the human mind seeking patterns where none exist? The silence of the cosmos offers no clear answer, but the recurrence of these shapes across scales suggests that geometry is not mere coincidence. It is the skeleton of existence, the architecture upon which all else rests. The geometry of the infinite leaves us suspended between revelation and enigma. Each discovery opens doors to new questions. Why should mathematics, an abstract creation of human thought, map so perfectly onto the workings of the universe? Why should patterns born in numbers and shapes appear in galaxies, atoms, and living organisms alike? Is geometry the blueprint of the cosmos, or is it simply the lens through which our minds interpret reality? As this section closes, we are left with the image of spirals stretching endlessly inward and outward, connecting the smallest cell to the largest galaxy, the finite to the infinite. In those spirals, in those repeating patterns, in the silent architecture of symmetry and form, the mystery deepens. If there are architects of cosmic order, perhaps their greatest tool was geometry, the infinite language that both reveals and conceals the structure of existence. High upon mountains, buried in jungles, or standing silently in deserts, ancient monuments rise as stone testaments to humanity's longing to connect earth with sky. These temples, pyramids, and observatories were not only centers of ritual, but instruments of cosmic alignment. Long before the advent of telescopes or satellites, our ancestors mapped the heavens with astonishing precision, embedding celestial knowledge into the very stones of their sacred architecture. These were not random constructions. They were blueprints of a forgotten dialogue with the cosmos, silent yet enduring messages to future generations. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its alignment to true north is so precise that even modern compasses seem clumsy in comparison. The dimensions of its base and height encode mathematical relationships eerily close to pi and the golden ratio. Some shafts inside the pyramid point directly toward stars that held special significance to the Egyptians, linking the pharaoh's soul with the heavens. Was this geometry mere coincidence, or was it evidence of a sophisticated understanding of cosmic principles? To walk within its dark corridors is to sense that every stone was placed not just for earthly stability, but as part of a celestial equation. Half a world away, the Mayans constructed temples and observatories with equal devotion to the sky. El Castillo at Chichen Itza becomes a cosmic calendar during the equinox, casting shadows that form the image of a serpent slithering down its staircase. The Temple of the Sun at Teotihuacan mirrors the path of the sun itself, while the Mayan calendar system revealed an uncanny grasp of astronomical cycles stretching thousands of years into the past and future. These structures were not mere places of worship, but instruments for decoding time, their builders acting as architects of order who sought to harmonize human life with cosmic rhythm. In the British Isles, Stonehenge stands as a haunting reminder of prehistoric stargazers. Its stones, weathered and immense, are aligned with solstices and lunar cycles. On the summer solstice, the sun rises perfectly over the heel stone, illuminating the inner circle in a spectacle that must have inspired both reverence and fear. To the people who built it, this was not architecture, but cosmology in stone, a sacred machine built to track the turning of the heavens. Though the purpose of Stonehenge remains shrouded in mystery, its astronomical precision suggests a forgotten tradition of sky temples that once spanned continents. Across the Pacific, the Polynesians mastered navigation using the stars alone, creating temples not of stone but of memory and oral tradition. Their knowledge of celestial patterns allowed them to cross thousands of miles of open ocean with nothing but the night sky as guide. On Easter Island, the Moai statues, often believed to face inland, are increasingly understood as markers of celestial alignments as well, their silent faces watching not only over land but toward the heavens. The connection between human culture and cosmic order reveals itself in every corner of the ancient world. These forgotten temples raise questions as profound as they are unsettling. How did civilizations without modern tools achieve such accuracy? Were they guided by painstaking observation alone, or did they possess knowledge lost to time? And why was aligning with the cosmos so central to their existence? To them, the universe was not a distant backdrop, but an active participant in human life. By aligning temples with stars, they believed they were aligning themselves with the order of creation, bridging the human and the divine. Even in Asia, the pattern persists. The Angkor Wat Temple in Cambodia, one of the largest religious structures in the world, is aligned with the solstices and incorporates astronomical cycles into its design. In India, the ancient observatories known as Jantar Mantars are vast architectural instruments, designed not with lenses or mirrors, but with stone and geometry, to track the positions of stars and planets. Such creations show that the marriage of architecture and astronomy was a global phenomenon, uniting distant cultures under the silent governance of the sky. Modern researchers are both fascinated and unsettled by this legacy. Some argue that the precision of these temples indicates knowledge passed down from a lost advanced civilization, while others insist it was the result of patient human ingenuity. Regardless of the explanation, the fact remains: across millennia, humanity devoted extraordinary effort to embedding cosmic knowledge into sacred structures. The very act of building temples as mirrors of the sky suggests that humans felt themselves part of a larger architecture, one designed not merely for survival, but for meaning. And yet, the silence of these monuments is deafening. Their builders left no detailed manuals, no blueprints, no explanations. What remains are stones aligned with stars, shadows that fall in perfect patterns, and whispers of rituals performed under the open sky. The architects of these temples are lost to time, their voices silenced, their intentions left for us to guess. Are we rediscovering truths they once knew, or merely projecting our own longing for cosmic order onto ruins that have outlasted their makers? In the forgotten temples of the sky, we confront the paradox of human existence. We are small, fragile beings who nevertheless sought to inscribe eternity into stone. We gazed at the stars not only with curiosity, but with reverence, embedding their rhythms into our cities, calendars, and myths. These temples remind us that humanity's search for order is not new. It is ancient, woven into the very beginnings of civilization. To stand among their ruins is to feel the weight of generations who looked upward and saw not chaos, but a cosmos waiting to be understood. The question remains: did these builders glimpse a truth we have forgotten? Or were their temples simply reflections of the same longing that drives us today, to find order in the infinite, to make sense of silence, to believe that the cosmos is not indifferent but connected to us? Whatever the answer, the forgotten temples of the sky endure, not as relics of superstition, but as monuments to humanity's oldest and most profound dialogue, the conversation between Earth and the stars. When written records fade and monuments crumble, stories remain. Myths are not simply tales of gods, monsters, and heroes. They are symbolic blueprints of how early humans understood the universe. Woven into their narratives are hints of cosmic order, fragments of knowledge encoded in allegory. In every culture, myths act like veils, partly concealing, partly revealing secrets about the structure of reality. The hidden architects of myth were not merely storytellers, but preservers of wisdom, translating celestial rhythms and natural laws into narratives that could be remembered long after the builders of temples were forgotten. Consider the Greek pantheon. Zeus hurling thunderbolts is not only a dramatic tale of divine wrath, but a mythologized understanding of storms and the power of the sky. Apollo, god of the sun, embodies the daily journey of light across the heavens, while Artemis, goddess of the moon, reflects its cycles. Behind the drama lies an encoded astronomy. The gods mirror celestial bodies, and their interactions mirror the interactions of the cosmos itself. The myths were not random. They were symbolic maps of the order perceived in the sky. In Egypt, the story of Osiris, Isis, and Horus is filled with cosmic metaphors. Osiris, god of death and rebirth, reflects the cycle of the Nile and the seasonal renewal of crops. Horus, the falcon-headed god, embodies the sky itself, his eyes the sun and moon. Even the conflict between Horus and Set echoes the eternal battle between light and darkness, order and chaos. Through these myths, Egyptians expressed an understanding that life itself was part of a larger cosmic pattern, and that by aligning with that pattern, one could touch immortality. The myths of the Norse are equally saturated with cosmic symbolism. Yggdrasil, the great world tree, is a map of the universe, roots in the underworld, branches in the heavens, trunk binding all realms together. Ragnarok, the foretold end of the world, mirrors the cycles of destruction and renewal that ancient peoples observed in the stars and in the seasons. For the Norse, mythology was not fantasy, but cosmology told in metaphor, a way to give form to truths too vast for direct explanation. Even in the myths of indigenous peoples across the world, the same patterns appear. The Navajo tell of Spider-Woman, who weaves the web of creation, a metaphor strikingly resonant with the modern concept of the cosmic web of galaxies. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia speak of the dream time, where ancestral beings sang the world into existence, an idea that resonates uncannily with scientific notions of vibration and resonance as fundamental to reality. The myths, though varied, all whisper the same idea, that hidden order lies beneath the surface of existence, and that storytellers are the first to sketch its outlines. But why encode knowledge in myth? The answer lies in memory. Stone can crumble, scrolls can burn, but stories endure in the mind, passed down through generations. Myths became vessels of hidden architecture because they could carry wisdom across time without requiring precise scientific language. A farmer may not grasp orbital mechanics, but he can remember that Persephone spends half the year in the underworld, symbolizing the cycle of planting and harvest. A fisherman may not know the equations of tidal forces, but he can remember that the moon is a goddess whose moods control the seas. Myth was the world's first library, storing cosmic truths in a language of story. Yet myths are not static, they evolve. As cultures shifted, so too did their stories, layering new meanings upon old symbols. This fluidity allowed myths to act as bridges between ages, preserving fragments of forgotten knowledge. Scholars who compare myths across civilizations find startling similarities: floods that cleanse the earth, serpents or dragons that guard treasures of wisdom, sky fathers and earth mothers birthing creation. Are these similarities mere coincidence, or are they echoes of a shared understanding, passed down from a time when humanity's connection to the cosmos was more direct? The hidden architects of myth were not simply dreamers but guardians. They ensured that knowledge of cycles, alignments, and cosmic laws survived in a form accessible to all. Their work blurs the line between science and story, between religion and astronomy. A myth may not be literal, but it points towards something real. It is a compass disguised as a tale, a memory encoded in metaphor. Modern science, too, reveals the unexpected power of myth. Carl Jung spoke of archetypes, universal symbols appearing in the collective unconscious, shaping both stories and human behavior. The hero's journey, as described by Joseph Campbell, is not just a narrative structure, but a reflection of the psychological and cosmic order. Even today, films and novels echo mythic patterns, proving that these ancient frameworks are not obsolete, but timeless. They are still architecture, still shaping how we interpret reality. Yet myths also conceal as much as they reveal. They hint at truths, but do not spell them out. The serpent may symbolize both danger and wisdom. The flood may represent both destruction and renewal. The ambiguity is deliberate. It keeps the mysteries alive, ensuring that each generation must rediscover meaning for itself. The architects of myth did not give answers. They gave questions wrapped in story, to guide seekers toward deeper understanding. There's a haunting beauty in this. Perhaps the hidden architects were not simply preserving knowledge, but teaching humility. By encoding truth in stories, they ensured that humanity would never grow arrogant in its certainty. We would always have to wrestle with symbols, to read between the lines, to seek the architecture behind the veil. Myths thus become mirrors, reflecting back not only the cosmos but the soul of the listener. The myths remain silent but alive. They whisper of cycles and patterns, of cosmic battles and celestial harmonies. They remind us that order has always been sensed, even if not fully understood. They leave us with a challenge, to look beyond the literal, to listen for the hidden architect who spoke not in equations, but in stories that could outlive empires. And as the section closes, one cannot help but ask, are myths fragments of forgotten science? Or are they something deeper? Messages left by the cosmos itself, spoken through the imagination of humankind? In either case, they endure as blueprints, both mysterious and eternal, reminding us that behind every tale lies a truth waiting to be uncovered. Across every age, seekers of truth have found themselves confronted with the same paradox. The universe is vast, ever-changing and chaotic on the surface, yet beneath that turbulence lies a quiet, unshakable order. This order reveals itself not in words or proclamations, but in geometry, in the silent language of shape, proportion, and number. Long before mathematics became formalized into equations, humanity sensed the presence of sacred patterns. Circles carved into cave walls, spirals etched on stone, lattices woven into tribal art. All were more than decoration. They were imitations of a geometry observed in the stars, in seashells, in the unfurling of plants. This silent geometry was a way of perceiving the architecture of the cosmos itself. The circle was the first and perhaps most profound symbol of this geometry. To ancient observers, it embodied eternity, with no beginning and no end. The sun and the moon, appearing as glowing disks in the sky, became celestial signatures of the circle's perfection. Temples, stone monuments, and ritual grounds across the world adopted circular designs, echoing the heavens above. Stonehenge, with its ring of massive stones aligned to solstices, is one of countless reminders that geometry was a bridge between earth and sky. The circle was not merely a shape, it was a way of tuning human life into cosmic rhythm. Equally powerful was the spiral, that mysterious curve found in the shells of snails, the horns of rams, the arms of galaxies. The spiral represented growth, expansion, and the unfolding of life itself. Ancient peoples saw in it a symbol of the journey of the soul, forever winding inward toward mystery and outward toward infinity. The spiral's presence in art, ritual carvings, and even city layouts reveals a recognition that the same pattern governing the seashell also governs the stars. In that recognition, humanity glimpsed unity, a silent harmony binding all scales of existence together. Geometry's silence was not empty. It was the silence of truth speaking in forms that transcended language. The triangle, for instance, symbolized stability, its 3 points representing balance and completion. Pyramids, rising in Egypt and Mesoamerica, harnessed this form not only for physical endurance, but also for metaphysical resonance. To build a pyramid was to materialize a cosmic truth, that the divine order could be embodied in stone, enduring beyond generations. The builders may not have spoken in equations, but through geometry, they communicated with eternity. The hidden architects of temples, cathedrals, and sacred cities across the world employed proportions that echoed cosmic laws. The golden ratio, appearing in the spirals of sunflowers and the structure of seashells, was embedded in architecture long before it was formally described by mathematicians. This ratio, mysterious in its precision, seemed to carry with it an aesthetic and spiritual weight. Structures built upon it were not only pleasing to the eye, but seemed to hum with resonance, as though aligning human space with universal order. Numbers, too, were geometry's companions. The ancients recognized that numbers were not abstract inventions, but living principles. The number 4 reflected the stability of the earth, with its 4 directions and seasons. The number 7 carried celestial weight, echoing the 7 visible planets and the 7 notes of the musical scale. 12 spoke of completeness, embodied in the zodiac, the months of the year, and the disciples or tribes in sacred traditions. Numbers and shapes intertwined, forming a symbolic lattice through which humanity interpreted reality. Yet what makes geometry silent is also what makes it eternal. It does not require belief, nor does it bend to culture or opinion. The proportions of a pentagon or the curve of a spiral remain the same whether etched in sand by a child or calculated by an astronomer. Geometry exists independent of us, yet we find it reflected in us. The human body itself carries this silent geometry. The proportions of the face, the branching of veins, the spiral of DNA. We are not separate from the cosmic order, but expressions of it. To study geometry, then, was to study oneself, to glimpse the divine blueprint etched into the very fabric of being. Philosophers like Pythagoras understood this deeply. For him and his followers, numbers were sacred, and geometry was the key to unlocking the harmony of the cosmos. They believed that music, mathematics, and the structure of the universe were bound by the same laws of proportion. The string plucked to make a note was a microcosm of cosmic vibration. In their vision, geometry was not merely academic. It was mystical, a way of perceiving the music of the spheres, the silent song of the cosmos. But geometry's silence was also a test. It could not be mastered through words alone. It demanded observation, patience, and alignment with rhythm. Ancient astronomers charted the heavens not just to predict seasons, but to map the geometric dance of planets. Their discoveries became the foundations of calendars, agriculture, and ritual. To live in harmony with geometry was to live in harmony with time itself. In many ways, modern science has only deepened this ancient reverence. Physicists find geometry at the heart of reality, from the crystalline patterns of snowflakes to the complex symmetry of quantum fields. The structure of spacetime itself bends according to geometric laws, guiding the motion of stars and galaxies. The DNA double helix, with its precise spiraling structure, is a biological echo of cosmic patterns. Everywhere we look, geometry whispers of an order that unites life and cosmos, the minuscule and the infinite. Yet, there is something haunting in this silence. Geometry offers no commentary, no explanation, it simply is. The circle does not tell us why eternity exists, it only embodies it. The spiral does not explain why life unfolds, it only shows us how. The silence of geometry reminds us that some truths are beyond words, that they must be experienced directly through intuition and contemplation. For the mystics, this silence was the very doorway to the divine. To meditate on a mandala, to walk a labyrinth, to gaze at the stars. These were ways of entering the silent geometry, of aligning the soul with the order of creation. Perhaps this is why sacred art and architecture continue to move us so deeply. The rose windows of Gothic cathedrals, with their intricate geometric patterns, are not only visually stunning, but seem to resonate with something within us, something timeless. The same can be said of Islamic mosaics, with their endless, interlocking designs symbolizing infinity. Such works remind us that geometry is not only seen but felt, stirring in us a recognition that we are part of something greater. As we reflect on the silent geometry of the cosmos, we are left with both awe and humility. Awe, because the patterns are so vast, so consistent, so elegantly woven into every level of reality. Humility, because these patterns existed long before us and will remain long after. We are temporary interpreters of an eternal language. To study geometry is to listen to the cosmos without expecting words, to trace the outlines of truths too deep for speech. In the end, The silent geometry of the cosmos is not merely a scientific curiosity or an artistic motif. It is the hidden architecture itself, the foundation upon which both myth and science, art and philosophy, rest. It reminds us that behind the noise of human history, behind the chaos of existence, there is an order that does not waver. Silent, patient, eternal, it waits for us to notice, to listen, to align. And in that alignment, we find not only knowledge, but meaning, a recognition that we are woven into the very geometry of the stars. When we gaze upon the ruins of civilizations long gone, the fractured columns of temples, the crumbling faces of statues, the half-buried remnants of once great cities, we are reminded not only of the passage of time, but of something far more haunting: the disappearance of knowledge. Ideas, methods, and visions that once illuminated entire cultures now lie scattered like broken shards, their meaning obscured. Humanity has inherited stones, but lost the instructions carved into their silence. The architects of cosmic order, whoever they were, did not just build monuments. They preserved insights about the universe. And yet, much of it has slipped through the cracks of history, vanishing into the shadows of forgetting. Consider the Library of Alexandria, often described as the greatest repository of ancient knowledge. Within its walls were texts that may have contained astronomical records stretching back thousands of years, treatises on geometry and philosophy, accounts of technologies whose precision we still struggle to understand. Its destruction, whether through fire, neglect, or conquest, was not merely the burning of scrolls. It was the erasure of memory. With its loss came silence, a silence that echoes to this day. What mysteries about the cosmos perished in that smoke? What forgotten formulas or diagrams were reduced to ash before our ancestors could pass them forward? The vanishing of knowledge was not always dramatic. Often, it occurred slowly, like sand slipping through an hourglass. Civilizations rose with their astronomers, mathematicians, and temple builders, then fell to war, famine, or natural disaster. As conquerors replaced the conquered, sacred traditions were outlawed, languages extinguished, oral teachings broken. The Inca quipus, knotted cords that encoded information, remained undeciphered after the Spanish conquest, their silent language severed from the memory of those who once read them. Entire systems of knowledge disappeared, not because they lacked brilliance, but because their guardians were silenced. Even when fragments of wisdom survived, they often reached us stripped of context. We marvel at megalithic structures aligned to the stars, but cannot decipher the rituals that gave them life. We hold fragments of Babylonian star maps, yet much of the cosmology they served is lost. The Mayan calendar still fascinates with its uncanny precision, but the full philosophical framework that animated it remains elusive. In every case, the material evidence endures while the guiding principles vanish into mystery, like echoes without a voice. This vanishing leaves us in a peculiar tension. On one hand, it provokes awe. How could ancient people, without modern instruments, achieve such accuracy in mapping the heavens or shaping stone? On the other hand, it provokes despair. How much more did they know that we can no longer access? We walk among ruins like detectives at a crime scene, piecing together fragments of a lost narrative, haunted by the suspicion that something vital is missing. Yet perhaps the most unsettling thought is that forgetting is not just a thing of the past. Knowledge vanishes even now. Modern technologies, though vast and powerful, are vulnerable to the same forces: fire, war, neglect, and time. Digital data, stored on fragile drives, may not last even a fraction of the centuries endured by stone inscriptions. Should our civilization fall, what would remain intelligible to future seekers? Would they find skyscrapers but lose the meaning of our mathematics? Would they marvel at satellites orbiting the Earth but fail to reconstruct the logic that launched them? The cycle of remembering and forgetting may be inescapable, an eternal rhythm of knowledge rising and vanishing like tides. This raises a deeper question. Why does knowledge vanish at all? If truth is eternal, why is human memory so fragile? Part of the answer lies in the human condition itself. Knowledge requires transmission, teacher to student, generation to generation. When that chain breaks, truth dissipates. Empires collapse, not only because walls crumble, but because stories cease to be told. A star map without the myth that explains it becomes just dots on parchment. A formula without its context becomes a riddle. The disappearance of knowledge is not merely about facts. It is about meaning, about the connective tissue between symbol and understanding. Yet the vanishing of knowledge also carries a strange gift. It forces each generation to rediscover, to question, to reconstruct. The mysteries left by the ancients inspire inquiry that might not exist otherwise. If every secret had been preserved, perhaps wonder itself would have diminished. It is in the absence of certainty that curiosity flourishes. The ruins, in their silence, beckon us to ask, what was once known here? Who looked at the stars and inscribed their wisdom into stone? And why was it so important that they aligned their very lives with the cosmos? Still, there is sorrow in the silence. The voices of the past reach us only faintly, like whispers through fog. Were the architects of cosmic order aware their knowledge might vanish? Did they build in stone precisely because they knew words fade? Perhaps the temples, pyramids, and monuments were never meant as mere shelters or tombs, but as vessels of memory, designed to withstand forgetting. If so, then what we call ruins are not failures but victories, the last remnants of a message sent across millennia, still awaiting our full understanding. Today, as we sift through fragments of ancient texts and alignments of forgotten temples, we are participants in a dialogue with the vanished. Their silence demands our attention. Their absence of explanation becomes its own form of explanation. That truth cannot be fully captured, only hinted at. The loss itself becomes part of the story, shaping how we perceive the past and how we imagine the future. The vanishing of ancient knowledge, then, is not only a tragedy, but also a mirror. It reflects our own impermanence, our own fragility, our own responsibility to preserve what matters. Each forgotten library warns us that what we know today is never guaranteed tomorrow. Each lost symbol reminds us that truth must be lived, not only written. Knowledge, like starlight, fades if not continually renewed. And so, we stand at a crossroads between memory and forgetting, between what survives and what is lost. The ruins around us are not only relics of vanished worlds, but invitations to listen, to search, to rebuild. The architects of cosmic order may be silent, but through their silence, they still speak. They remind us that the quest for meaning is eternal, and that even when knowledge vanishes, the longing for it does not. That longing is perhaps the greatest inheritance they left us. The restless desire to seek the order hidden in the chaos, to remember what has been forgotten, and to carry forward the flame of curiosity into a future where silence may yet give way to revelation. Across the sweep of human history, one idea has echoed like a steady drumbeat: that existence is not a straight line moving towards some unknown horizon, but a cycle, a rhythm, an eternal return. From the rising and setting of the sun to the waxing and waning of the moon, from the changing of seasons to the orbit of planets, everything around us hints at repetition. The ancients, gazing at the sky with awe and fear, came to believe that cosmic patterns were not just background events, but the very fabric of reality. They saw the universe as a great wheel, turning endlessly, binding life and death, creation and destruction, into a single, unbroken flow. In ancient India, this vision crystallized into the doctrine of kalpas and yugas, vast cycles of time that stretch across billions of years. The universe, according to these traditions, is born, flourishes, decays, and is destroyed, only to be reborn again. Humanity, too, is caught within these cycles, rising to wisdom in golden ages and falling into darkness in ages of decline. It is not a story of progress or decline alone, but of rhythm. To live was to dance within the cosmic pulse, to accept that endings were not final, but preludes to beginnings. The Mayans shared a similar vision. Their intricate calendars mapped cycles that spanned centuries, even millennia. They believed that cosmic ages rose and fell, each governed by celestial alignments and divine order. To them, time was not an arrow, but a spiral, forever returning, yet never repeating in exactly the same way. When the calendar completed its great cycle in 2012, many feared apocalypse. Yet for the Mayans, such a transition was not an end, but a renewal, the closing of one cosmic book and the opening of another. In the West, echoes of the eternal return appear in the philosophy of the Stoics, who believe that the universe itself is periodically destroyed by fire only to be born again. Later, Friedrich Nietzsche reimagined this idea, challenging humanity to live as though each moment would return endlessly, as though the choices we make must withstand eternity. The thought was both terrifying and liberating, a mirror forcing us to confront whether our lives hold meaning if endlessly repeated. The eternal return is not just philosophy or myth, it is written into the natural world. The tides rise and fall with the moon. Stars are born in clouds of dust, burn brightly for eons, and collapse into remnants that seed the birth of new stars. Even galaxies collide and reform, carrying forward the rhythm of destruction and creation. On the smallest scale, atoms themselves vibrate in cycles, while DNA coils and uncoils, replicating life through repeating patterns. The microcosm and macrocosm both sing the same song of recurrence. Yet the eternal return is not a simple comfort. To believe in cycles is to believe in inevitability, the knowledge that what rises must also fall, that what begins must also end, only to begin again. Ancient civilizations embraced this with rituals designed to harmonize with cosmic repetition. Festivals of death and rebirth marked the turning of seasons. Sacrifices were offered to ensure the sun would rise again, crops would grow again, rains would return. By participating in these rituals, humanity felt itself aligned with the eternal wheel, not crushed by it. Still, the question lingers. If everything returns, does progress truly exist? Are we bound to repeat mistakes as much as triumphs? The rise and fall of empires seems to suggest so. Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome, all flourished in brilliance before sinking into ruin, their echoes heard in the empires that followed. Each new civilization seemed to carry fragments of the old, reshaped yet familiar, as though history itself is a cycle endlessly reenacted on different stages. Modern science, too, has wrestled with this idea. Some cosmologists propose that the universe itself may expand, collapse, and be reborn in an eternal cycle of big bangs and big crunches. Others imagine a multiverse where patterns play out infinitely, each universe echoing the last in variations both subtle and vast. Theories of entropy and renewal suggest that even in decay, seeds of order remain, waiting for the chance to bloom again. The eternal return, once myth, now whispers through equations and cosmological models. Yet perhaps the most profound expression of eternal return is not cosmic, but personal. Human life itself mirrors the cycle. Birth, growth, decline, and death are followed by renewal in generations that carry forward our essence. We live, we pass, but something of us, our genes, our ideas, our influence, returns in new forms. Every sunrise we wake, every season we endure, is a rehearsal of the eternal return, reminding us that we, too, are patterns repeating within the greater design. The idea brings both fear and hope. Fear, because if all repeats, then suffering repeats, mistakes repeat, wars return, and loss is endless. Hope, because renewal is equally eternal. Love returns, beauty returns, wonder returns. The eternal return holds both the cruelty of inevitability and the mercy of rebirth. It forces us to confront the duality of existence, despair and joy, collapse and creation, silence and song, all woven into the same wheel. Perhaps this is why so many cultures created myths of dying and resurrected gods, of cycles of descent into darkness and ascent into light. Osiris, who was slain and reborn. Persephone, who descended to the underworld only to rise each spring. Christ, whose death gave way to resurrection. Each is a reflection of the eternal return written in symbolic form. These stories taught humanity to endure loss by promising that renewal would follow, to accept death as a doorway rather than an end. But there is another dimension. The eternal return asks us not only to accept cycles, but to live consciously within them. If every action repeats forever, then each decision carries infinite weight. If history cycles, then learning becomes survival. Failure to remember condemns us to repeat. The eternal return is both a comfort and a warning, a call to align ourselves with cosmic patterns lest we be crushed beneath them. In the silence of night, when stars wheel overhead in their patient arcs, one can feel the pull of this idea. The sky itself is a clock, not ticking forward but circling endlessly. To our ancestors, those stars were not distant spheres of plasma, but living reminders of recurrence. To us, with telescopes and equations, they remain the same, symbols of cycles vast beyond comprehension. The eternal return of cosmic patterns is not merely a theory, but an experience. Every time spring follows winter, every time the moon returns to fullness, every time dawn breaks after the long night, we feel it. We are participants in it, whether we believe or not. It is the architecture of existence, silent but unyielding. And so, as we contemplate the eternal return, we glimpse both our fragility and our belonging. We are not separate from the cycles, but woven into them. Our lives, our civilizations, even our universe are patterns repeating in a grand design we only partially understand. Whether this thought terrifies or comforts us depends on how we choose to live within it. But the wheel turns regardless, eternal, unbroken, waiting for us to recognize its rhythm and find our place within its dance. As the dust of history settles on the ruins of forgotten civilizations and the whispers of ancient astronomers fade into silence, a question emerges with haunting urgency. Who will be the architects of tomorrow's cosmic order? For thousands of years, humanity has searched the skies for meaning, building temples, crafting calendars, aligning stone with starlight. Yet today, for the first time, we hold in our hands the instruments not just to observe the universe, but to reshape it. The role once played by nameless builders of pyramids and star temples may now fall upon scientists, philosophers, dreamers, and engineers, modern visionaries who stand at the threshold of eternity. Our ancestors reached upward with stones. We reach upward with rockets. The telescopes orbiting high above Earth are the new temples of the cosmos, lenses pointed not toward gods, but toward galaxies. The James Webb Space Telescope, unfolding its golden mirrors in the cold of space, is both a scientific instrument and a monument, a structure that embodies the same human longing for cosmic dialogue as Stonehenge or Chichen Itza. Its gaze stretches billions of years into the past, capturing the light of the universe's first stars. In those faint glimmers lies the modern version of ancient prophecy, a reminder that to seek the sky is to seek ourselves. Yet, the architects of tomorrow must carry a burden heavier than any stone block. The ancients sought alignment with cosmic order. We seek mastery over it. Artificial intelligence deciphers patterns once hidden to the human mind. Quantum physics reshapes our understanding of reality itself. Genetic engineering begins to rescript life. Space exploration moves from dream to reality as we set our sights on Mars, the moons of Jupiter, and beyond. For the first time, humanity does not merely interpret cosmic patterns. It dares to intervene in them. But will this intervention create harmony or fracture it? The architects of tomorrow are not only scientists. Philosophers must confront questions of meaning that technology alone cannot answer. If we colonize the stars, what becomes of our myths? If we alter the genome, what becomes of our humanity? If we create artificial beings capable of thought, do they inherit a place in the cosmic order, or do they stand apart as something alien? The search for alignment between human aspiration and universal law is no less pressing today than it was when our ancestors aligned stones with the rising sun. It is only the scale that has changed. History warns us that knowledge without wisdom leads to ruin. The Library of Alexandria burned. Mayan codices were destroyed. Entire systems of meaning vanished when their stewards failed to preserve or apply them. The architects of tomorrow must learn from this vanishing. Our data may be vast, but it is fragile. Digital archives, satellites, and servers can be erased by solar storms, wars, or neglect. Unless we embed our knowledge in forms that endure, tomorrow's seekers may walk among the ruins of skyscrapers as we walk among pyramids, wondering what vanished truths once guided their construction. And so, the architects of tomorrow must ask, how do we preserve what matters? Perhaps by returning to the principle that guided the ancients, the marriage of knowledge with story, fact with meaning, science with myth. For those civilizations collapse, stories endure. The myths of dying and resurrected gods still move us, thousands of years later. If we hope to carry forward the wisdom of our age, we must embed it not only in machines, but in narratives that ignite wonder. A data chip may corrode, but a story can echo through eternity. There is also the question of scale. The ancients aligned temples with constellations. We align satellites with entire galaxies. But are we prepared for the weight of such vastness? The eternal return of cosmic cycles teaches us that civilizations rise and fall. Are we destined to repeat that rhythm, building great technologies only to watch them collapse, leaving fragments for future generations to puzzle over? Or can the architects of tomorrow break the cycle, forging a new order that endures not for centuries, but for millennia, even eons? To do so requires humility. The universe is immense, and though our tools grow powerful, we remain small within it. The temptation to dominate, to bend cosmic order to our will, is strong. Yet the true architects of tomorrow may be those who learn not only to manipulate the universe, but to listen to it, to harmonize with its silent geometry and eternal cycles. The future may belong not to conquerors of the cosmos, but to custodians of its balance. Still, hope glimmers. Consider the International Space Station, a temple not built by one nation, but by many, orbiting Earth as a symbol of cooperation across boundaries. Or the Voyager probes, carrying golden records of humanity's songs, greetings, and images into interstellar space. A message in a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean. These are monuments of our time, evidence that the longing to connect with the stars is as alive today as it was in the age of pyramids. They may outlast us, drifting in silence, waiting to be discovered by future civilizations or beings beyond our own. The architects of tomorrow are also artists, poets, and storytellers. For even in an age of science, we cannot live on facts alone. The awe of standing beneath the Milky Way, the wonder of imagining alien skies, the terror of contemplating eternity, these are experiences that demand expression. Art and science, myth and mathematics, must intertwine as they did in the past, or else the cosmic order we build will be sterile, lacking the fire of meaning. And yet, beneath all speculation, a sobering truth remains. The architects of tomorrow are us. Not distant descendants, not future beings of unimaginable intelligence, but the people alive today. Every choice we make, how we use technology, how we treat our planet, how we frame our narratives, lays a stone in the temple of tomorrow. The cosmic order is not a distant mystery waiting to be discovered. It is being shaped now, in laboratories, in classrooms, in stories told by firelight or streamed across digital networks. We stand at a threshold. Behind us stretch millennia of forgotten wisdom, half-remembered myths, and monuments that defy explanation. Ahead lies a cosmos vast, silent, and waiting. The question is no longer whether humanity will seek cosmic order. It is whether we will build it wisely, weaving together knowledge and humility, power and reverence, progress and remembrance. The architects of tomorrow will not be remembered for how high they built their towers or how far they sent their machines. They will be remembered for whether they managed to align humanity's restless ambition with the silent rhythms of the universe. They will be remembered for whether, in the vast darkness, they built not only machines but meaning, not only monuments but wisdom. The stars have watched civilizations rise and fall, their light indifferent to our struggles. Yet they remain patient, eternal, waiting. Tomorrow's architects may not master them, but perhaps they can learn to build in harmony with them. And if they succeed, then the lost architects of the past will not have labored in vain, for their silence will have become the foundation of a future where humanity finally finds its rightful place in the cosmic order. At the edge of history, where memory dissolves into myth and myth into silence, humanity faces the same question that haunted its ancestors. Is existence a straight line, racing toward an ultimate end, or is it a circle, endlessly turning, forever repeating? From the ruins of forgotten temples to the glowing screens of supercomputers, from the chants of ancient priests to the equations of modern physicists, the mystery of the eternal return has never ceased to call. What lies before us is not only the challenge of survival, but the deeper question of meaning. How to situate our fragile human story within the rhythms of the cosmos itself. The eternal return suggests that what has been will be again, that civilizations rise and fall as naturally as the tides, that even stars are born, blaze, and die in cycles echoing across eternity. For the ancients, this cycle was not tragedy, but truth, a way of grounding human life in the vast motions of the heavens. In Mesopotamia, Babylonian astronomers tracked the return of planets and eclipses, believing that these repetitions reflected divine order. In Mesoamerica, the Mayans built calendars of astonishing precision, not to measure time as a line, but to reveal its spiral dance. In India, the concept of yugas described immense cosmic ages, each cycle dissolving and reforming the universe anew. In Greece, philosophers like Heraclitus and later the Stoics wrestled with the idea of recurrence, suggesting that the cosmos itself might burn and be reborn in an infinite rhythm. Today, in an age of modern physics, the question returns with new urgency. Cosmology tells us that the universe began with a singularity, an unimaginable explosion of energy and time. But does it end with heat death, a silence of entropy stretching into infinity, or will it collapse and rebound in an endless series of cosmic bounces? Theories like the oscillating universe, the multiverse, and eternal inflation suggest that our cosmos may not be a singular event, but one verse in a vast cosmic song, repeating themes across unfathomable scales. In this vision, the eternal return is not only a poetic metaphor, but a scientific possibility. Yet the human heart struggles with this thought. To imagine that everything repeats, that our joys and sorrows, our wars and triumphs, will occur again, endlessly, can be both a comfort and a terror. Friedrich Nietzsche wrestled with this idea in his doctrine of the eternal recurrence, asking whether we could embrace our lives so fully that we would will their repetition forever. To live as though every act must be lived again, eternally, is to live with the deepest responsibility. This is the challenge that the future of cosmic order presents, not merely to endure the cycles of time, but to live within them with meaning. But if history repeats, can humanity break its own cycles? Civilizations have risen with brilliance and collapsed into silence. Sumer, Egypt, Rome, the Maya, each left behind fragments, monuments, and mysteries, whispers of knowledge that vanished in a fire, flood, or conquest. Our modern world, built on fragile digital archives and interconnected systems, may be more vulnerable than we admit. A solar storm could erase our memory as surely as the burning of a library. The eternal return warns us that without wisdom, all we build may collapse and vanish, leaving future generations to rediscover what we forgot. The architects of the future must therefore weave memory into permanence. Just as the ancients carved stone to align with stars, we must embed our knowledge in forms that endure not merely decades, but millennia. The Voyager golden records drifting through interstellar space, the messages etched onto probes, the archives encoded in DNA or on durable crystal plates. These are humanity's attempts to escape the cycle of forgetting. They are modern myths, carrying the hope that even if civilizations fall, the story will continue, etched into the fabric of the cosmos. Yet cosmic order is not only about memory, but about harmony. The eternal return reminds us that we are not separate from the rhythms of the universe, but part of them. The cycles of day and night, the seasons, the births and deaths of stars, all mirror our own existence. The danger of modern ambition is to forget this harmony, to believe that technology makes us masters rather than participants. The future of cosmic order requires humility, a recognition that our tools are powerful but fragile, and that our survival depends not on domination, but on alignment with forces far older and larger than ourselves. This is where myth and science must converge once again. Myths gave meaning to cycles, turning the rising sun into a god, the harvest into a ritual, the solstice into a festival. Science explains these cycles with precision, revealing orbits, rotations, and gravitational dynamics. Yet without myth, science risks sterility. Without science, myth risks illusion. The architects of tomorrow must merge them, crafting a cosmic order where equations inspire awe and myths resonate with truth. A society that lives within the eternal return must not only understand the cycles intellectually, but feel them deeply, embedding them into its culture, art, and consciousness. The eternal return also invites us to rethink progress. We often imagine the future as a straight line of advancement, ever greater technology, ever deeper knowledge. But what if progress is not linear, but cyclical, rising and falling like the breath of the cosmos? In such a vision, the task is not to escape the cycle, but to move within it wisely, ensuring that each rise builds upon the last, that each fall preserves seeds for renewal. The future of cosmic order may not be infinite expansion, but sustainable repetition, a dance rather than a march. And yet, there is hope that even cycles evolve. Just as the spiral is both a circle and a line, repeating yet ascending, so too may humanity transform eternal return into eternal growth. By remembering the past, by carrying forward its wisdom, by embedding meaning in permanence, we may ensure that each cycle does not simply repeat but deepens, becoming richer, more harmonious. The stars themselves, though born and dying endlessly, produce heavier elements with each cycle, seeding galaxies with the materials of life. In the same way, humanity may seed the cosmos with memory, art, and meaning, ensuring that each return brings something new. At the heart of it all lies a simple truth. We are participants in a cosmic order vast beyond comprehension. Whether time is a line or a circle, whether the universe ends in silence or rebirth, our lives are threads in a pattern that stretches beyond imagining. The eternal return does not diminish us. It situates us. To live well is to live in harmony with cycles, to create with the knowledge that what we do may echo forever. The future of cosmic order will not be written only by physicists or astronomers, but by all of us. In the stories we tell, the monuments we build, the technologies we design, the wisdom we pass forward. If we embrace the eternal return not as a burden, but as a calling, then we may become true architects of tomorrow, not masters of the cosmos, but its conscious participants, harmonizing our fragile human existence with its infinite rhythms. And perhaps, in that harmony, lies the answer to the silence of the past. The ruins of ancient temples, the vanished knowledge of forgotten astronomers, need not be seen only as losses, but as foundations. They remind us that humanity has always sought alignment with the cosmos, that every age builds upon the silence of the last. The eternal return ensures that nothing is truly lost. It only waits to be rediscovered, reinterpreted, reborn. In the end, the eternal return is not a prison, but a promise. It tells us that we are not adrift in chaos, but part of an order vast and enduring. It calls us to live as though every act matters, as though every moment echoes across eternity. To embrace this is to build not only for today, but for forever. And in doing so, humanity may finally fulfill its ancient dream, not of escaping the cycle, but of becoming one with it, weaving our story into the endless fabric of the cosmos.